Central Asia, South Asia, or in short, we just say CASA. In terms of the percent of female population, it's about half and half. The income group, it's low income. Nepal is low income. Then you have the lower middle, which includes Bangladesh, Bhutan, India, Kyrgyzstan, Pakistan, Sri Lanka, and Tajikistan, and a couple of countries which are considered upper middle, Kazakhstan and the Maldives. There's no data for Afghanistan, Turkmenistan, and Uzbekistan. The other interesting statistic there is the gender gap rank. With Bangladesh ranked as 47 and Pakistan 143, you'd be interested to know that number 1 is Iceland. And there are 144 countries. Number 144 is, I believe, Yemen. Sorry, that's not so readable, but just a couple of interesting to note with regards to those statistics. There has been some movement from year 2000 to 2017 in terms of internet users. You have the penetration of the internet in terms of the percentage of the population. The lowest is Afghanistan, which right now is about 11.7%. And then I guess the highest is the Maldives with 71.8%. The other interesting statistics, what at least for me was interesting, but like the indicator, one indicator that people use now is the number of Facebook users. As you can see there's quite a bit of people who actually use the Facebook. Next. So the agenda for the workshop, we're going to do an overview of the digital dividends, followed by country presentations. We were going to do small group sessions, but I think we will do away with the small group sessions, but instead have a larger, everybody would be part of that discussion. And then we will hear the resource speakers in terms of what resources they could provide. By digital dividends, we mean 3 things. Can you make that larger?
No, I think it's okay.
All right, by digital dividends, we mean impact for economic growth, creation of paid work, and new kinds of services such as e-health, e-agriculture, other socially relevant applications. In the rest of the world, the digital, there's data that shows that digital technologies are transforming business. So for instance, Alibaba is helping about 5 million and counting small businesses. Digital technologies are transforming people's lives. For instance, there are, I can't read that, 300 million and counting mobile money users. Thank you. And then in terms of governments, again, an example is India with the digital identity of 950 million and counting. But how does digital dividends happen in a country? With the World Bank Development Report, they look at several factors. They look at the foundations for a digital economy, and those are regulations, skills, and institutions. And then they also look at the level of the digital development, and that could be emerging, transitioning, and transforming. So when we listen to the country case studies, they will be sharing with us what foundations for a digital economy are working in their countries, what are the current challenges, and possibly the level of digital development by regulation, by skills, and by institutions. The World Bank Development Report also says that in terms of skills, for example, it's not just about IT skills, but it's about these other skills like cognitive skills, social and behavioral skills, and technical skills. I'm going to go, so for the country presentations, we're going to hear from Tajikistan, Afghanistan, India, Nepal, Pakistan, and Sri Lanka. I'm sorry, Sri Lanka is not able to make it. We'll start with Tajikistan. Zura and Mabsuna are actually in Tajikistan. They were not able to make it, so we will have them online. Are they ready?
They're not ready. Maybe we can try to reach them, but they're
Okay. So change of plans. I don't think they have been successful in logging it in yet. So I think what we'll do is then we will go to South Asia first. We'll start with Afghanistan, followed by that way. You have 5 minutes each.
Okay. Good morning, everyone. I'm Shabana Mansouri. I work with TechForm in Afghanistan, especially for different programs and activities. I also work with Internet Society Afghanistan as chapter officer, where I mainly represent women and gender-related issues and representing civil society. Okay. I had a beautiful presentation prepared for this, which is not now with me, but with a person who is enjoying now with my laptop. So I wrote whatever I had prepared in my note. In Afghanistan, we are in last about two last eras, we are the witness of the rapid development and revolution of digital technologies, and also digital technologies development. We believe that using these technologies and also the broader development benefit is the digital dividends. And in order to benefit from these basic digital technologies in Afghanistan, in order for everyone and everywhere, every time, it should be accessible and to be used, we need for a special initiative or a special act, and we consider digital dividends as one of that. Not only this digital dividends, but to also to get the most use of these rapid developed digital technologies and revolution, we need to work on the analog complements. And in order how to do this analog complements, we need to straighten regulations in Afghanistan that ensure businesses and also citizens and government are adapting skills, and both for businesses and also citizens to the new economy and also to the new era of technology demand. And in order to ensure these regulations and technological skills are implemented, we need the strong support and also strong contribution of institutions also. In Afghanistan currently, the digital technology has rapidly spread by citizens and also businesses and by government, but still it's not enough and satisfactory. I'm representing some numbers and figures, which is done through Asia Foundation, through the survey of Afghan people in 2017, which says that mobile technology is the main device for using of information for people in Afghanistan, where 86.6 Afghans says that they own a mobile to obtain information, and among this it's 6.6%, 78.3% are men, and 45.7% are women. And for the second technological access for them is access to internet. Where 41% people says that they have access to internet in their area of living, where mostly internet is accessible in the capital, and which is 81.9%, and in the urban areas it's 20%. And again, the third use of internet and also for social media is considered, and is says where people has responded that 27% of the capital people have accessibility to internet and in order to use for social media, where only 9% are in rural area, and among that 20% are male and 7% women has access to personal internet and use of social media. By personal access to internet, it means that the number that I said for the overall access to internet is like they have access to internet, but not through their personal device or personal device or usability, but they can use through a shared device, or if someone has access to internet in a family and they use the shared device, or by shared cost something. But this figure shows that they have personally access to mobile and also social media, and mostly they use social media for basic usage of like just to have email or Facebook, or only for some campaigns, but not to use for advanced usage of internet for transaction, or for like reservations, or for businesses, or to use it for in other sections like education or health or that. But still, there are gaps, and in order to address these gaps, the basic step is to address both this digital divide and digital dividends. And for that, for digital divide, internet should be accessible, affordable, and also open and safe. And for digital dividends, we believe that the benefits of usage of technology should be spread, and also for inclusion, innovation, and efficiency, and also reducing risk should be controlled and also concentrated. Where this connectivity, which is digital divides, and also use of technologies, the digital dividends, both can take us to making digital development strategies, regulations, and then to make sure that these regulations are passed through skills and through the active contributions of institutions. And we are very hopeful, and also we would love to have more inputs today from resources speakers, and also from other representing countries here, to work together, and also to take past some of these outcomes back to our work and areas. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Now that we have Tajikistan online, let's hear them. Do we know what to do with our?
Yes, they will have to put.
Okay. Please use your earphones. I think there should be one beside you there. Oh, there it Okay. Hi, Zura and Mabsuna. Are you ready?
You hear them?
We cannot hear you.
Yes, yes, we can.
Hello? Can you hear them?
They have to hear the session. Okay.
We need to hear them.
Yes, I can hear them. I can hear them through the.
Can you hear them? No, you're the only one who can hear them.
No.
Sorry. Can you hear?
No.
No. Okay, now, can we just use that one?
We can use this one, but
Okay.
we don't have a microphone for this. Okay. Can you hear like this?
Okay. Obviously, there's a divide here between Switzerland.
Hello, we are here.
Obviously, there's a divide here.
Hello? Hello, we are here.
We're trying to fix it so we can hear you better.
Hello?
There's obviously a digital divide between Switzerland and Tajikistan.
We're trying to fix it so we can hear each other.
No, she didn't.
There's
She was
obviously a
not
digital
allowed to
divide
travel at the
between
very last
Switzerland and
minute.
Tajikistan.
She was about to.
Go on.
Okay, tell them.
Okay.
We have a technical issue here. So we're going to listen to India while they try to sort out the.
Do I begin or should I wait?
You can begin.
Okay.
Yeah.
Good morning, everyone, and thank you, Technician, for giving me the opportunity to speak here. I come from a country which has the second largest internet user base today. Unfortunately, we also have 60% of the people who are yet not connected. So we have much more work to do. The countries, India too also understands the power of internet and as a biggest enabler and to give the level playing field to people. And so the government also has initiated a lot of initiatives in terms of using the internet to get these services to the people. We have a national broadband plan. We have a digital India mission, which has been launched by the Prime Minister, wherein we have several schemes which is on in terms of infrastructure, in terms of empowering people and services to get services till the citizen level. There are various initiatives also for women in terms of literacy. We have in terms of digital skills. We also have certain skill programs which are on so that people in the country can be skilled, especially women. And however, there are definitely gaps. We have certain initiatives, something like the pilots on financial literacy and empowerment of women, where about 60,000 women have been trained. There are jobs which are being created. However, there are reports wherein, which say that the digital talent gap is widening in India by 64% in the organizations in the last few years. So there are initiatives which are on. However, there are gaps also which need to be addressed. if I'm talking from the gap between the male and the female usage on the internet, there is a report by the Internet and Mobile Association of India which says that the rural male to female internet use is skewed to 88% to 12%, and in the urban areas it is 62 versus 38%. So we have a long way to go in terms of bridging the digital gap between the genders. Of course, there are certain social taboos also involved with Indians, with the women using the internet in the country, but there are various schemes which are on, various initiatives which even the public sector has launched, which encourages women even at the entrepreneurial level to use the internet. There are various initiatives which have been launched by Google, which Rudy International, on empowering the rural women to kind of get into business online. Facebook also has certain initiatives which is on. So there are dividends which the women are, certain dividends which we can see that the skills, the empowerment is giving to women, especially in rural areas. However, there is more to be done. Coming back to the session which we have on building capacity between the CASA region, I would say that we've been doing a study on building the digital gap between women, and we found that women do not find role models to follow. So perhaps a collaboration within the region in terms of having a forum where women can come and exchange ideas, knowledge about what they do, their challenges, and to help each other, because that's the best way in which women can empower themselves. Many times they are hesitant in terms of speaking about their issues. Looking at it even from a career perspective, you would not see many women in the senior levels. How to get into the next level, those are certain things perhaps women in positions can help mentor. Also, if you have some kind of a newsletter, a capacity building, sharing of best practices within regions would possibly help in women from the gender south to actually improve and have their voices heard. These are my initial comments. I think I'm within time. Thank you.
Thank you. Are we? We're still waiting for the technician so we can hear Tajikistan. So I think we should carry on that way.
Thank you very much. Hello, good morning. My name is Diksha Raut. I work as a legal assistant for Center for Law and Technology. I'm also the Youth IGF 2017 Fellow of ISOC. So beginning with the increasing digital technologies, including the mobile phones and internet, the number of mobile users and internet users have been growing up globally, and people, business and governments have been are connected more than ever. So even women in Nepal, they are benefited by the access of the internet that we have, and the usage of internet, and also the modern technology that we have. So talking about the specific case scenarios of Nepal, for an instance, if you talk about digital dividends and how women have been benefited by it, Nepal is an agricultural country, and the husbands, they are out of the country for the foreign employment, because poverty is one of the realities of Nepal. And for women, because of the internet, it is really comfortable for them to access the market, the real rate of the market price of their agricultural products. And this is how they have been using internet to benefit in terms of the agricultural aspect. And there are so many institutions, this is the case scenario, but there are so many institutions which have been working in Nepal. For example, Loom Nepal, Center for Law and Technology, where I work, and Internet Society Nepal chapter. They have been working to empower women in terms of, in the aspect of ICT. And talking about the Center for Law and Technology where I work, there is a program which they are about to launch, where they are trying to to create a platform where any women who face violence in the internet can complain. So these are the few initiatives that have been happening in Nepal, and even in the individual level, the police in the eastern district of Nepal have started training the secondary and higher secondary students and families of migrant workers on the internet safety. So yes, these are the initiatives which are really important to minimize the criminal activity that has been happening in the sector of internet, especially for the women. If we talk about connectivity, back in 2015, there was a devastating earthquake that struck Nepal, and 8,500 people died 2 years ago, and there are more than 17,000 people who were actually injured. After that, one positive part about the earthquake which struck Nepal was that the Kathmandu Living Lab, a organization, coordinated a central platform where people can actually ask for they can ask for help, or they can offer assistance also. So another positive aspect of after the devastating earthquake would also be how the mobile telephony has connected Nepalese. Although the cell phone was not really consistent at that time, but the sporadic internet, they used the unstable internet also through the mobile phone. It was really easier for them to connect to their family ones and know whether they are okay or not, and have peace of mind. So there are currently 2 mobile service providers in Nepal. There are 5, more than 5, but then 2 are the main mobile service provider in Nepal. And there are more than 25 ISPs, including all the small and big. And although mobile internet is quite trending in Nepal, yes, in the globe also, but also in Nepal, it's really trending. And with the liberalization that has happened in telecommunication business in Nepal, it has especially helped Nepalese market to open to competition, and that's how the internet has become more affordable now than the past. The improvement in competition has directly benefited the customers in terms of access to services and quality of services, and the service charge as well. So besides this, as part of the government plan to make a smart city, has encouraged the electronic payment system in Nepal, which is really alien in Nepal and really new. And that's how the private sector and for government services you can pay it. And beside this, the e-shopping has also been really trending in Nepal, and this is much modern, although it was already existent in the global space, but in Nepal, the e-shopping has recently been launched, and thus creating a lot of job opportunities for many people via internet, including women. Having said this, yes, Nepal has failed to reap all the advantages. There are so many advantages that the digital dividend can have. But although Nepal has good telephony penetration and internet penetration, but there are still 15.5 million people who do not have access to internet. And although 40% of population is connected to the internet, but 15.5 million is a great figure. I think the solution for these problems, actually the problem in South Asia, I think the general problem is because of the patriarchy and the stereotyping of the women. It's same in Nepal, but since it's also a underdeveloped country, or do I say a developing country, the root of patriarchy is even more deep in case of Nepal. So that is the main problem that we are facing. So the solution, yes, of course, could be, as already presented by the panelists also, the collaboration and coordination can have a lot of positive impact in case of Nepal also. So, and I'm really, it's a delight that as Apricot 2018 is happening in Nepal, I wish other programs would also happen in Nepal so that people and the government could be actually sensitized about how important digital dividend actually is. Yeah, thank you very much.
Sidra.
Hello?
Yeah.
Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Is it on?
Yeah, but
Okay.
you have to speak loudly.
Okay.
Remote is not getting it, seems.
Hi, thank you, Maria, for giving me the opportunity to speak here, and thank you, CLDP, for giving me the opportunity to attend IGF. It's my first IGF, and I'm so happy and excited to see so many like-minded people here talking about the issues and problems and, proposing solutions around it. So my name is Sidra Jalil, and I'm representing Pakistan here. I'm a marketing, communication, and research professional working over 12 years in the same industry, and have been part of the entrepreneurial ecosystem of Pakistan for like past 5 years. I'm currently working with Code for Pakistan. It's a non-profit organization building a civic-friendly ecosystem back there in our country and supporting the ecosystem. So talking about Pakistan, the digital dividend is the same problem just like many other countries. According to the ITU's Digital Access Index 2002, which includes over 178 countries, Pakistan's unfortunately rate is valuing at 0.24 at the moment. But just for your information, the scale ranges from 0 to 1, where highest value suggests that it's a better digital access. So unfortunately, it's a serious problem at the moment. Adding more to it, this indicator is usually evaluated on 5 variables, that is usage, infrastructure, affordability, knowledge, and quality. So our government back there and our citizens, communities back there are focusing entirely on the usage at the moment, which is to bring more internet user, more mobile subscribers over the board. However, I personally believe that there is a desperate need to work upon the quality, knowledge, access to student literacies, and active student enrollment is also more important. Talking about the government is investing and aggressively working on initiatives and policies. There is an organization government recently developed, the Pakistan Software Export Board, which has been established by the government of Pakistan to ensure development and implementation of a national policy framework that works with local software houses, work with the startups community, and help resolving their issues, listening to their concerns, etc. So investment policies, software and hardware development, there is a special concession on software exports. There is a special tax exemption on startups and communities who are working around it, working on the open data and partnering with government. SCCP has proposed draft set for the rules of venture capital companies, and then State of Bank of Pakistan has allowed opening of internet merchant account within the Pakistan to promote e-commerce. So talking more about the numbers, Pakistan is currently one of the fastest growing internet market, just like India. We are to give you an idea of this, there are over 1 million people who are coming on board, starting using internet through their mobiles every month. But this is just a smaller chunk, Consider this, multiplying this over 12 months and, imagining the whole population of Pakistan, this is going to be massive in the next few years. So the total number of users in the South Asian countries currently stands at 35.1 million, which is, that means large swaths are, still offline. So for the perspective, the entire population of Australia is 23.1 million. So just imagine the sheer population to density. Pakistan at the moment is at the 4th largest country on the Asian continent, behind Indonesia, India, and China. So going further on this, internet users in Pakistan swelled by 20% in 2016, and it's growing with 20% percentage every quarter. So the global average stood at 10% of the increase in the internet users. Pakistan, just like any other emerging market, the overwhelming majority of web traffic is going through mobile. We have, tremendous growth of 13% increase last year. The share of PC sits at 27%, and it is estimated that the mobile market last year was worth around 840 million US dollars, and which is again that is imported by the legal channels. We believe that there is still a lot of high-end models, mobile phones, which are brought through the gray market. So we believe that the impact is huge. So looking at the channels, looking at the paths, looking at the growth, Pakistan, the government of Pakistan is highly tilted towards entrusting more on the startup industry to evolve and work more upon initiatives. Over the years, in the past 2 years specifically, we have produced startups like Cowler, like Crickflex, like 3G Education. Just to give you an idea, the Cowler, the famous startup from Pakistan, it's an IoT-based device around the cow where a farmer can manage his own its whole cattle and the lands through a single device. We have startups like Doctors, where women sitting at their home far away in the remote areas can get access to health facilities and get to know about their health problems through a very small screen. And government is supporting such initiatives. Talking about education, we have produced startups like 3K and several other education on wheels, mobile, etc., education on mobiles, etc., who are using content of open source platforms already. In fact, I have observed that many startups are using content of Khan Academy and delivering the same content to far remote areas of Pakistan. So we believe that open data and open source solutions, content is the need of the hour. We should start collaborating and work more upon these solutions. Apart from this, the community, the civic community, the organizations, the non-profit organizations are very activated, and they are also working with government to work on the open data policies, developing civic innovation labs. The government of Pakistan has recently taken initiatives to launch national incubation centers in all the 5 leading cities, and then going further into the sub-cities of Pakistan. Apart from this, there are plans to launch the Digi Skills programs for women and youth only, where they can train over 10,000 users every month over using internet and enhance their skills and capacity building. Worth mentioning, there are plans to launch civic spaces. There are plans to launch maker spaces in smaller cities of Pakistan to make sure the talent goes viral, and they learn new skills and get an opportunity to access these devices. So yes, the fellowship programs are also open. Citizens who are willing to contribute, who are willing to develop solutions that can help improve the quality of life all over the country are also being welcomed. I myself, from the platform of Code for Pakistan, has volunteered for several initiatives. Government has funded several hackathons, innovation challenges to promote new ideas and to encourage more startups to add value to it. So we believe that our the horizon is it's huge, it's wide. There's a need to collaborate, not just among citizens and government, but there is a need to work across the borders and add value to each other's initiatives. Thank you so much.
What's happening with our Tajikistan? Okay, I think we will try Skyping them. While they're setting that up, do you have any burning questions for our South Asia speakers? They don't have to be all burning, but I see a hand over there. Go ahead. Any questions? Yes.
Is this the where? My name is Joe Gattuso. I'm with the U.S. Department of Commerce Commercial Law Development Program. I have some familiarity with the region. As Sidra said, I've been working to support attendance here by her and like Shabana. I'm curious, especially for Shabana, that even though I'm familiar with Afghanistan, I don't know how the average person is able to access the internet online and actually take advantage of these opportunities, and that affects women. It's a country that has not licensed 4G mobile services, and there is not extensive infrastructure to support landline services. So I wondered if, Shabana, you could tell us, how do people get their internet? Is it a matter of just working within the limitations of a mobile, where there is access at all, or are there other means that women in particular have?
Thank you, Joe. If I'm not wrong, your question was how women are like getting internet while there is not a licensed 4G, and also about the cost of the internet.
No, technology use.
Not just the cost, but the technology. If I were a man or a woman, and presumably more in the city, the service is available, but what service would I, as an average citizen, use? 3G, or is there something else?
Yeah, thank you. Okay, well, to respond to your question, I myself still using 3G, and other like citizens in the capital using 3G and only used for the well, it will depend from person to person, from woman to woman, for which purposes to use. Yeah. But the majority of use of internet, even in the capital, as I'm the witness, is the majority of them are using for only the basic services, which is only to use for example, for the women who are only like housewives, and they have only the basic digital literacy. They only use it, like, for example, to be connected with their friends or families outside the country, or even inside country. They use only this to have access to, like, for example, WhatsApp, or which Viber is has very much users in Afghanistan, but this is in very like low level. But in coming to the upper levels, they use the internet for at least for having like, for example, those who are women who are students or who are educated a little bit, or girls who are in schools, for having like at least an online account, having email and then Facebook, and then also but coming up to the women who are professionals, who are working, they use it for nowadays for different like reasons. For example, many of them use who are like journalists, who are activists, and also civil society activists. They use it for different campaigns. And for example, just recently, many of the women in the capital used this social media and of course through internet to express their unsatisfaction from introducing a female to be candidate for a ministry of Afghanistan, who was rejected by parliament. They use this internet for social media, and also for, as I said at the beginning, for campaigns, they use it. And also nowadays, mostly in many events and the upper levels, we also, as being part of the Internet Society, and also many initiatives and programs of Tech Women in Afghanistan, we have encouraged, and also it's understandable for many women who are working as entrepreneurs and startups, they prefer use of technology and internet as a need, and they understand that it's a need to use it for startups, for creating businesses, for also for women who are like businesswomen, to use it for their financial for financial use or for establishment, for online promotion of their products, businesses, and also for marketing. They use it for different areas. So overall, use of internet is mostly in the cities and in the capital, and again in cities and capital it's different why they use it from level of their life. It's used from basic level to the upper level. Thank you. I hope it addressed your concern or question.
Right, that's exactly why I asked, and thank you.
Thank you.
It's something that I think about in terms of the infrastructure component, because you talked about different levels, and you wonder, number one, will the lower levels ever have access? And you did mention the price is very expensive. And then even in the upper levels, how is that accessed? Unless you have a mobile phone and 3G, unless you're at a university and you might have a special connection. It's even at the upper level, I imagine it's difficult to have information about businesses about that. If someone were to post an opportunity on a website, the average user may not see that. You say, well, I'm helping women, I'm going to post something on a website or an opportunity. Does that convey the message? And can they respond? Can they do business? And it seems like it's a fundamental issue in your country.
Yes, thank you. As a real example, I used till now as a woman who live in the capital and studied university in Afghanistan in Kabul. I used at least around 10 local international opportunities through only use of internet and of course Facebook. I used it for different opportunities inside and outside country, and through different programs of Tech Women Afghanistan, we encourage our members and also our audiences to use internet and also social media for the to catch different opportunities. And that will depend on which sector they are, whether they are in education sector, they are journalists, they are even doctors, engineers. So we encourage the better use of technology and internet, and also if they create jobs, if they create money through use of internet, and also if they can overall, my own personal working area is also use of ICT and technology for women entrepreneurs to create jobs, businesses, and to contribute to the overall economic growth of Afghanistan. Thank you.
Thank you. Yeah.
Can you mute yourself from there? If you can use a headphone instead, because we're getting so much noise from other side.
Oh, poor them. I've been trying really hard. After we hear from Tajikistan, if we hear from them, we're going to listen to a few resource speakers. And for the resource speakers, the question
getting noise
is,
from your side.
how can you or your organization help with fast-tracking digital dividends in Central Asia and South Asia? And each of the speakers will have about 5 minutes.
Yeah. Yeah, it's here. Please go ahead.
Shall we start?
Yes, we can hear you. Please go ahead.
Good. You see our presentation as well, right? Yes. Do you see the presentation?
Yes.
Good. Thank you for all the trouble you've been going through to connect us. It's actually very timely to talk about the dividends of the technology in Tajikistan as well as globally. And it seems that we are very much dependent on the resources we have. My name is Zuhra, and Mawzuna is my colleague. We are going to talk about the situation in Tajikistan. And I have to really have a very short description about Tajikistan itself. It's a country of post-civil war. Our war literally finished as about around beginning of 2000. That's why any of the reforms and the progresses we had very much depend on last 17 years. I have to really, like you're looking at our slide, it gives you the sense where we're situated, what our neighbors are, what kind of problems we could have as a very high mountain country. Of course, we are not alone in the CASA region. Our population mainly lives in the valleys. 93% of our territory is very high mountains, which are not populated. Thus, technologically, it brings a lot of troubles. And of course, landlockness and being somewhere far, far away, all this brings some sort of trouble. I have to say that Tajikistan as a post-Soviet country has been witnessing many different stages, including the civil war itself. And civil war as a factor played a very dominant role on huge brain drain, huge amount of people fled from the country or have been killed in the country during civil war. But so Tajikistan after civil war had to reface to really bring up the new generation of the brain as well as the youth who would be educated. Parallel to the 17 years of the reforms of economy, being an independent country, we had to really come through the restarting our economic development as well as intellectual development. And so far, we can actually proudly say that the system of education of Tajikistan has been restored. And we have basically almost 100% of young children going to school, and the education, general education, covering 100% of children in Tajikistan. The general literacy rate is 97%. Girls and boys are equally going to school, and they are actually compulsory education is 9 years at school. So why I'm actually pressing this, because when we are talking about technology, it comes to the issue of literacy, and if we want to really go further and stronger, the literacy actually important, especially when you are talking about the content, you are talking about access, and you are actually talking about also have faced many different other challenges, including the economic challenges. However, there is a trend. Of course, we cannot compare ourselves to the trends in Afghanistan, which are very heavily subsidized. In Tajikistan, the subsidies to the development of the economy was much less than our neighboring country. Of course, the damage of the war in Afghanistan is much higher, but it doesn't really, if we look at the percentage, the investment was actually really less, and what we have as a result currently reestablished the system of education, public health. People have access to it. However, the question comes to the quality issue, and this is always an issue we have to really talk about more seriously. Telecom industry and everything else, we have two parts of it. One is the heritage of understanding what the communication is all about and the technology is all about, and the heritage of thinking, which is Soviet still, is actually on controlling everything what is possible. And the other side is technology itself. When it's coming into a country, it actually pushes the idea of actually being accessible to all and everyone. Thus, we have that difference that we have the development of the technology which is going by private sector, and it's actually accessible by to people even in the far away, especially the mobile communication, far away in the country. And then we have, of course, urban population which is heavily accessing whatever quality of internet and, of course, mobile communication. Here, Um, let's talk about a bit about our digitalization. We started from e-government projects and also the issue of m-government as a solution, best solution for such a high mountain and landlocked country. So the penetration of mobile users is more than 100, and penetration of the internet users is about 20%. We have different projects, very successful projects, e-tax, e-customs, e-visas, etc. From the other side, we also are facing the different type of gaps, like city-rural digital divide, like age age gap, and also digital literacy. We are facing such kind of problems in our country. Misconception. I would actually talk about what is that, as I said, the inertia from Soviet past and the current move to the CASA, digital CASA of the region, and everything about technology has that turbulence between the decision-making bodies, especially in the government. While there is one side of the government and many other, very highly qualified people inside the government are pushing the agenda towards CASA digital, but unfortunately there are some sort of suspicion about having more openness and more accessibility to internet, and even IP telephonia is actually creating that whole thing, discussion and suspiciousness around this. That is actually somehow slowing down to make the decision about moving forward, inclusive of the e-governance projects which are going, inclusive of the content development and etc. So there is a certain possibility to really move around and actually talk to the governmental people to really come to the understanding that anything about technology and evidence of technology would be very useful if they are actually understood correctly. There is a huge amount of pressure on the government as well. However, in the same time, there is a lot of pressure on the internet providers and mobile phone providers from the governmental bodies. So we have this coincidental, post-Soviet heritage vis-a-vis the new modernization and reforms inside the decision-making processes. However, things are moving ahead, and this is very good news. And in the same time, we have new generation of technocrats who are coming, and they are easy to talk to about this type of issues. So that's why I have to really say in Tajikistan we have two sides. One, which is subsidized by government and the international IFIs as reforms projects, and these are moving slowly, but still there is some hope. And then we have also non-governmental part of civil society and businesses part in infrastructure development, and they have been quite efficient on pushing it. So we have policy and legal frameworks are developed and being developed. Of course, in this 17 years, we cannot say they're fully, 100% well done. However, again, the trend is positive, and this is very good to keep the trend positive and bring more and more population. National Development Strategy is also looking at the issue, and they are inclusive of talking development of the communication and strategy on the e-government. They are talking technically and prioritize trends in the transport, energy, agriculture, and productive employment and innovation. And by innovation, they mainly talk about bringing more technology and bringing more skills. So that would be developed. So we are giving you also a slide about how much the universities are responding to that particular in the labor market in Tajikistan. And unfortunately, the universities are more conservative part of talking. Still, the ICT is actually learned as computer science only and not really connected to interdisciplinary, anything about computer science and the, anything which is about development.
Also, we have run professional IT courses like Cisco Academy, like Linux Professional Institute, and we are conducting every year digital use camps, hackathons, etc. So the number are raising year after year. We're also introducing ICT for development curriculum to the universities, which is also a good example. And the conclusion is that here you can see the conclusion. So we need to create original local platforms for networking and professional development of girls in STEM, and also to youth and women empowerment programs which are existing, for instance, digital CASA, and encourage women and youth to join global professional networks.
Yeah, and one more thing I think which would be important to make this happen, we have to have more and more organizations who would be able to fund it, because the government would not be able to fund it by itself. I think there should be some sort of mapping exercise within the donor community who would be actually encouraged and willing to invest in such initiatives. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. And with that, we will proceed with the various resource speakers. We will go alphabetically by last name. Anki Das from Facebook.
Thank you. It is indeed, a privilege to be here to listen to representatives both from Central Asia as well as from the South Asia region, particularly women. There's been a research which we've commissioned as Facebook recently, and also in terms of other research that we have seen in India, and I think this is symptomatic for the rest of the region as well. When you look at access to the internet, there are two fundamental barriers which are preventing women from getting online or limiting their access even when they have device access. One is normative values in this society, not the preponderance of norms in terms of prohibiting full access to the internet. And second is access to resources. There has been a traditional conflict in terms of ability of women to access resources. So if I am, and this is a bit of a stereotype, but overall what we've seen is that if there is a family which has to distribute a data plan amongst its family members, and if you have a male child and a female child, it's always the boy who gets a preference, and the girl child will either get a hand down or will get a shared device, which in itself creates a problem in terms of whether that person is able to fully exercise choice in terms of access to the internet. So we've seen that. But what is becoming very interesting is that the internet, its ability to provide skilling and education has become a force multiplier in terms of women wanting to get organized and get this access. As Facebook, we essentially have looked at two programs at scale, which we are doing, which we feel is helpful. One is we have a program which is known as She Means Business, which essentially means helping small and medium enterprises, particularly those which are run by women entrepreneurs, scale in terms of using social media platforms to build brand recognition and also develop market access. In India, we have trained more than 14,000 women entrepreneurs and reached out to literally thousands of women who've got impacted by that. There's one very compelling case study which I do want to sort of share. This is a self-taught Facebook user called Chandni. She's a daughter of a slum, was very young when she lost her parents and went to work for a foundation called Chetna Foundation. And she was literally on the streets. What she did was that she self-educated herself, and she started a Facebook page called Voice of the Slum, and essentially put out a Facebook post saying that even if everybody who reads this post were to contribute a rupee, I would be able to set up a shelter and also a learning center. As a consequence of that, she's been able to do fundraising. Now she has a center which employs 12 volunteers. She is also looking to a phase where she can set up a school. She brings out a news publication which is known as Slum Post. It's a newspaper. It's an alternative newspaper for slum dwellers. And she is looking at a subscription model as well as looking at ads in terms of having a viable business, completely self-started, completely, and very inspiring entrepreneurial venture. The She Means Business program is something which we have scaled in Bangladesh. We just launched in Bangladesh. We also have it working in Pakistan. We are in some early evaluation in terms of seeing how we may launch it in the Central Asian countries, because we think this is something which can really scale and help women connect to markets. The second thing which we have done, and this is something which we recently launched, is a digital skills hub. Essentially, this is live in India currently. This is a hub which helps women build social media, learn social media marketing strategies, which again they can build in terms of which again they can bring to their social entrepreneurship ventures. The goal in India is to train 500,000 women by the year 2022. We do think that the scale operation will throw up learnings, which then we can take and take in other countries, and also create local language content, because I think that will be key in terms of making sure that the skills program really scales. So we feel that while there are normative values which are holding women back in these societies, just the economic opportunity which the internet unleashes can be a great organizing tool in terms of creating programs and supporting them.
Thank you. May we call on Joseph Gattuso from Department of Commerce?
Good morning, everyone. We still have a few minutes of morning left. My name is Joe Gattuso. I am with the Commercial Law Development Program, which is a part of the U.S. Department of Commerce. I am pleased to be here and really honored to be here in this discussion, although it's unusual for my office to take a speaking role. And I'm being shy about it, is perhaps the way to say it, because our role is as enablers of other people from the countries we support to participate and take on different activities, such as making it possible for there to be attendees here. We usually don't take a discussion of policy. But the organizers asked me to talk a bit about what we do, and I'm glad to do that. You might find it interesting. It's not an advertisement for my office, because I should say that even though we're part of the U.S. Department of Commerce, our funding for the most part comes from the U.S. Agency for International Development, USAID, and their individual missions in different countries. So at the moment for South and Central Asia, the CASA region, we have funding to work on ICT matters in Afghanistan. We have some funding for Pakistan, although that is about to close out. We have funding not for ICT in Sri Lanka. So it changes over time. But what that funding does is we are commerce, and we are the Commercial Law Development Program. We look to see where reforms in the legal and regulatory environment can help the economies to grow and for there to be opportunities. And as we do that, that means the entire population. That means women as well as men. And given cultural norms and other things, it requires us to take special efforts to make sure that women are included in the programs and receive the benefits that we have to offer, the assistance that we have to offer. So in this area, I'm fortunate to have the flexibility to suggest programs that could be helpful in this regard. And I was thinking today that what we do and what we do to help women fall into a couple categories. One is connectivity generally and infrastructure. And this is why my question to Shabana earlier about Afghanistan in particular, Afghanistan, and I'm not as familiar with some of the other Central Asian countries, but Afghanistan has a lot to do with respect to building its infrastructure, just so that there is access, that there is meaningful access, that it's more than the ability to send a WhatsApp message, which is great. We're using WhatsApp here, and we hope that WhatsApp continues to be available, because that's a question in some countries. But what does it really mean to have access? So we work a lot with the regulatory authorities on the regulations, on the development. We're hoping that Afghanistan, for example, moves to a 4G availability in the near future. There's also matters of business opportunities or other opportunities. Some of my colleagues who do not work in ICT have worked with Afghan women, Pakistani women, and in other countries to provide ways to open opportunities, and sometimes with a focus on women. So we are here at the IGF working with 3 countries, Tunisia also, spending a lot of time learning about and thinking about electronic commerce, what it means, what are the e-commerce implications, and women will benefit from that as well. And then there's generally, but sometimes an opportunity to think about educational opportunities. And here again, women are a focus of some of our work, that if we can offer an opportunity for education, is that opportunity available for women, and do women participate? Say if we do a course at a law school, or if we do a course somewhere else. So that's 3 areas that perhaps we can contribute.
Thank you. Can we call on Chris Skagg?
Good afternoon. Thank you for the opportunity to speak at this forum today. So again, my name is Chris Haig. I'm a senior advisor to the Bayat Group. I've been involved in Afghanistan since 2010 in various different roles within the U.S. government and within the private sector. So the Bayat Group consists of 2 main entities, the first being Afghan Wireless Communications. So Afghan AWCC was the first GSM operator, launched its services in 2002, currently has over 4 million subscribers and is providing 2G and 3G services throughout all provinces in Afghanistan. The Bayat Foundation has a network of hospitals, orphanages, and schools covering all provinces of Afghanistan, also providing food, clothing, maternal care, pre- and post-birth orphanages, and educational services to needy Afghans. So both entities work together in sharing a common goal of connecting all Afghans to create an informed, healthy, prosperous civilization in Afghanistan. So this also includes specific services for women in the area of telemedicine, e-health, mobile banking. These are services focused on that are either provided to women and for women entrepreneurs who will be providing these services through the platforms that both of them have together. So the challenge again remains in Afghanistan is related to sort of access to the internet, quality of the service, internet services, and the costs in Afghanistan. So again, the question that was brought up is how can this organization help fast track the digital dividend in South Asia? More case studies and feedback to the Afghan government from lessons learned from other countries and how that digital dividend has been addressed could be very useful. I think the big opportunity within the within the Afghan government now is to really come up with the right regulations and policies and fees to ensure that the mobile network operators and the other service providers are able to reach all Afghans and all women in all corners of the country going forward. So there's been progress that started, but those policies need to be fine-tuned to make sure that we continue that access, because the networks are there, but we need to actually get to the percentages of people in the country who aren't able to access these services. Thank you.
May we call on Yanis Lee?
Hello. Yeah. Hi, everyone. This is Yanis from .Asia. So thanks for inviting to share with our recent research that we launched. well, my organization is actually operating the .Asia domains. Well, we have been supporting the Asia Pacific Regional IGF since it started for almost 8 years as well. Well, so our organization, actually, our mandate is to promote the internet development in Asia. And and we actually sees that and recognizing mobility is actually a competitive advantage right now. And so that's why we're launching this Youth Mobility Index as part of our 10th year anniversary project. So we're trying to launch it next month. And the entire index is actually analyzing the youth in Asia and how how is the mobility and in terms of 3 core sectors that we identify, both in education, employment, and also entrepreneurships, how easy they are actually to going inbound and outbound within their own countries, and of course also how easy it is to set up the business or get employed somewhere. And in terms of these three areas, so not only so we also considered 5 different factors, so which is also including not only the outbound and inbound mobility, of course, but also actually considering the sustainability factor as well, and also the internet factor, how digital mobile the youth are, and so that they can really set out to change the world. So we think that this is actually a very good study to an overall landscape view to see how these. So we rank actually 20 different localities in Asia, which including most of the South Asian countries actually, but right now not including Central Asia. And we actually found that it is very interesting is actually some of the speakers already mentioned, as well as the mobile internet usage is actually a trend or is even better than the fixed broadband development in some of the countries, for example, especially Nepal and India. I mean, the mobile internet usage is much higher than we see than the broadband adoption, and we see this as an opportunities for them, that because maybe because of the infrastructure difficulties in setting up and promoting the internet development, but so it's more difficult to deploy the infrastructure for fixed networks, and so these countries or crouching tigers that we see is just capturing on this mobile broadband to develop themselves and to spark but however, the question whether these could help spark social and economic opportunities is still yet to be seen. But also we observed another observation is that, well, youth in general wants to be more mobile, but then we see that the digital mobility is limited, for example, in Vietnam or in Nepal. So the startup community is really eager to do something there, but for example, the e-government or some of the other digital aspects or internet access there is not that ready for them. So overall, these mobility index, we hope that actually we can identify the policy gap, or especially the gender balance perspective as well. We also included the gender indexes in this research as well. So what we want to identify some of the policies gaps so that we could see how we could actually influence the policymakers to change the policies, and also support women to get more how we can get them started with higher education. For example, that the Tajikistan ladies also mentioned that their starting line might be different, so how we can help them to get better employment or better education from the beginning. Yeah.
Thank you. Michael Luken?
Well, thank you very much. My name is Michael Luken. I'm a volunteer with IEEE. I'm actually incoming board director in January for Region 7, which is IEEE Canada. The reason I'm here actually is for a different role. IEEE has engaged on many levels on the professional side, on the women engineering side around the world, and in recent years started an initiative we call the IEEE Internet Initiative. Within that initiative, we have a couple of tracks. One of them is focused on inclusion, and we had a couple of internet inclusion events at Advancing Solutions in Washington this year, another one in India. And it has a second track, which is a policy track, and I happen to be the co-chair of that track. Hence, participating at IGF. So, what can IEEE do to advance the cause of women? That's really the question we're asking here. And this gentleman kind of put me a little bit on the spot because I really wasn't prepared for this. There's many levels. One of them is to support education from the ground up in science, technology, engineering, mathematics. And we are certainly involved in that area, and we make curriculum available, free for you or anybody to use. There's a website called tryengineering.org, there's trynano.org. There's various sites of that sort where materials are available for anybody to use at their leisure. IEEE started in recent years humanitarian efforts under the tagline of technology for the benefit of humanity. And under this strategic direction, there's funding for what we call site groups. Those are special interest groups on humanitarian technology, and it's generally student groups that are IEEE members in various countries who form a site group and then a project. So, for example, we have an outreach, internet inclusion really, outreach project in Tunisia. And there are various projects like that around the world, and if you are aware of student groups or projects that you would like to advance, you can get in touch with us and we can build the connections with the technical expertise. The other part, of course, is overall women in engineering. We're trying to encourage women to get the education and advance in their, once they have the education, advance in their careers and be leaders for the next generation. We do know that economic development, development of countries is tremendously dependent on the education and the innovation that results from it of their population. And for that, we need the smartest of all genders, not just one gender. And so if we do want to advance our civilization, we need technology to do it, because we won't be able to feed all of us without it. And in order to get there, we need to involve all of us. And that means training us, training ourselves, training the young girls, moving forward with a well-educated populace, not only actually for the knowledge base and the innovation base, but also to have an educated population to make decisions that are on a political side. So all over, my congratulations to you to try to move inclusion and education and engagement for women forward. We are with you.
Thank you. Nilmini Rubin.
Hello, I'm Nilmini Rubin.
After Nilmini, we have Melissa Sassi from Microsoft, and then Omar.
Thank you. I'm Nilmini Rubin with Tetra Tech. We're an engineering and consulting company with 20,000 people in 130 countries. We have sister companies like Coffee and MSI that you may have seen in the field as well. I just wanted to touch on a few things that were said and add in a bit of context. In 2016, the donors got together at the World Bank IMF spring meetings and committed to doubling foreign assistance into internet access by 2020. And it's sort of slow to come online, and it's coming from a low base, but it's certainly, I think, interesting to see that there is this larger commitment. Tetra Tech implements donor projects around the world, and so we've been tracking this very closely. Within the U.S. government, in addition to our colleagues' efforts from the Department of Commerce, USAID has been doing more work in looking at digital access. OPIC, the Overseas Private Investment Corporation, has been funding projects that would promote internet access. U.S. Trade and Development Agency has been doing feasibility studies. We have the Millennium Challenge Corporation, which is a big donor from the U.S. That does a lot of infrastructure work, that's planning its first compact with Togo, its first compact with any of the countries it's ever worked with that's focused on ICT. So it's sort of an exciting moment looking from the donor perspective of going in. I wanted to touch on two things that have come up here, which is gender as a whole and infrastructure. And I think that the theme really is integration, that in all of the other donor projects that are being done around the world, we've seen ways to integrate gender. We have principles on integrating gender in energy. Similarly, I think we need to just get baseline guidelines on how we integrate gender into ICT. They're not radically different. They're actually very similar. We have electricity, which is the conduit for the industrial age, and information is the conduit for this new information age, or this fourth industrial revolution. So they're very, very similar. So thinking about how we can better do that, rather than thinking about gender as a stovepiped tech issue. The second is integration and infrastructure, as has come up earlier. We have hundreds of millions of dollars going into infrastructure in South Asia, in the CASA region, right? And how do we better integrate that so that ICT is brought along? So if we're doing roads or energy, let's make sure we're doing the ICT or the internet components alongside it, whether it's digging once and doing it all at the same time, or establishing rights of way when we're doing other infrastructure to bring the internet online. And that way also you have the gender guidelines that go in that are already established in infrastructure, then would be applied to this as well. So thank you.
Hi, everyone. My name is Melissa Sassy, and I work at Microsoft, and I'm part of Microsoft's Airband initiative. I'm going to talk to you about a couple of ideas that I have. I'm not going to spend a lot of time going through the work that our team does. We all can research that. What I'd like to do is really talk about some of the buzzwords I've heard today, whether that's collaboration or partnership or mentorship, and talk through really some of the ideas that I have that we're maybe, we can work together, or Microsoft can help to empower women and girls around the world to achieve more. So my team, we focus on internet and energy access. And right now we're working in about 40 different countries, we have 40 different projects in about 25 different countries. Mikey is one of our partners in India. So if you have not had a chance to meet Mikey and know about the work that we're doing in India on the access side of things, good collaboration for you in terms of what can happen on the ground. I would say there's also some really interesting things we're doing in Nepal when it comes to PicoSoft Nepal. Part of that is internet access, and part of that is skill building. So if you've not had a chance to meet PicoSoft Nepal, I'd love to connect you with our partner on the ground. Similarly, in Pakistan, Maria Umar from Women's Digital League, and I'm not sure if you work with Maria or not, but I love the work that Maria is doing to really think about how do we, not go into a community and look to change culture, change norms, but how can we work within the confines of culture, which leads me to one of the other activities that I'm quite involved in within IEEE, and that's our Digital Literacy Working Group. And a lot of what I hear today is we're talking about percentages of access to the internet. And I think one of the challenges that we run into when we talk about whether it's women and girls or just people in general, and looking at the concept of digital inclusion, what does digital literacy actually mean? What does it mean to have a digitally literate society? You know, I hear some of the metrics being pulled up around using WhatsApp or using Facebook, and I'm an avid user of both, as well as Twitter. But is that really a measure of digital literacy? Is that just turning our women and girls and population into users of technology? How do we make sure that we're not just creating a group of consumers, but we're utilizing technology in meaningful ways, becoming creators and makers and doers with technology, whether that's basic digital literacy, which involves critical thinking, all the way through to more complex activities such as coding or building mobile applications. Microsoft is very involved in both aspects of things. I happen to work more on the access side of things, but one of the things that I might suggest in all of your countries, we have just launched a grant program, our call for grants for this year. It's the third year. Actually, Mikey's one of our grant recipients that's now moving into broader partnerships, but it's for increasing internet access in underserved communities. So we invest seed funding. There is mentorship, networking, as well as product access, shared marketing, and many other aspects that are kind of probably more of an accelerator or incubator. We fund for-profit companies, and our applications close on the 31st of December. I know that if I look at our map, I have not funded any, or we have not funded any projects in Afghanistan. I would love to see a quality application come in from an ISP in Afghanistan saying, we want to build out, you know, additional networks, and we want to get more people connected in Afghanistan. I'd love to see more coming in from India. That doesn't mean you're going to lose money, Mikey. Same thing with Nepal. We just gave out a grant in Nepal. I'd love to see something from Pakistan, from the Maldives, and all the other countries that we've been talking about today, whether that's Tajikistan, Kyrgyzstan. You can find more about it on Microsoft.com/airband. But if anyone has any questions, I'd be happy to talk after.
So we have one final speaker, Omar, who will also wrap up.
Yeah, thank you so much. Great presentations, both from the country speakers and also the resource organizations. My name is Omar Ansari, and I'm presiding over TechNation, which is one of the co-organizers with Maria Bibi's global networks of this workshop. And on behalf of TechNation, I thank you all for your time and great contribution to this program. I'll try to be as brief as possible because we have a very important activity going on after this, which I would like to invite you all for, and I'll tell you what it is. As an outcome of our first Tech Women CASA workshop in the IGF 2016 in Mexico, we launched TechWomen.Asia. And TechWomen.Asia is a network of women in technology, and it's focusing on building the leadership capacity as well as the technical skills of women in tech in Asia, in the Pacific, so they can, collaborate, work together to launch different programs, country chapters, build their networks. So that's what TechWomen.Asia will be doing. It's a very new initiative. We are doing a soft launch at the TechNation's booth. TechWomen.Asia is also present there. Booth number 51. You're all invited to join us there at 12:30, just in a few minutes. Can you go down a little bit? The programs TechWomen.Asia is interested in working on is ecosystem development in Asia and the Pacific for women in tech, skill building, networking, business acceleration, policy and advocacy, and cybersecurity and safety programs. There will be various events. You can go down. How you can get involved is through becoming a member, volunteer, a mentor, or a partner. This is the mission of a little brief information about the goals in the mission. Please go down. These are the originators of the Tech Women Asia, a team that we have in there, spread across Central Asia, South Asia, Europe, and other countries in Americas. Institutions behind, but we're looking for more institutions to join us because it's a multi-stakeholder initiative, and we would love to work with others. This is the kind of network we are building. It includes our country chapters, member network across Asia and the Pacific, partner network, and the mentor network that we really look forward to creating. Why we are doing, can you go down one more? Yeah, here. No, the number's up. Down? Yeah. A little more down. Yeah, this one. Why we are doing Tech Women Asia? You see 65 countries are there in the Asia and Pacific, and the population includes 4.5 billion. That's over 60% of the global population, and the women include 2.25 billion people, and that's almost 30% of the global population. The employment ratio is 3% to 80%, and the connectivity is 1.9 billion people. So there are so many problems and challenges that we need to address. Thank you very much, and see you later at the Tech Women Asia launch.
Thank you. Thank you very much. One more ask. Can I ask the resource speakers to please send me paragraph summary of what you have shared with us? Thank you.
Can you give me your card just so I have it? And I'll grab one of my cards for you too. Hi. Thank you. Melissa Sassy.
Pleasure.
Nice to see you. I have a card over here which I'll give you.
No problem. I was back and forth with Paul. I noticed coming in late. So I'm up with him and I was
Mitchell or?
Yeah.
Ah, okay.
And wanted to hook you in because you mentioned power.
Yeah.
To the workshop I'm doing, which is the workshop number 200.
Okay.
It's tomorrow, late afternoon. Hopefully, Klaus will be there too. But it's the center. Vince going to be there. A couple of folks will be there. But it's
Vince, my buddy. All right, I'm in.
It's about this. We've been working on this. If we're going to get the remaining billions in,
yeah,
we've got to start looking at the synergistic.
Let me get my agenda so I can circle it to make sure. Sorry. Yeah. Good intentions.
Yeah. Great.
My cards over here.
No, I'm actually.
So why don't we?
I thought I would do the stand.
Yes, you're all good.
Sorry, I'm running.
I'm glad you made it. That's great. Super.
I was in the other meeting, so
Okay,
I'm glad
good. Good.
Tell me when do you want me to see?
I'm not sure who's here.
Maybe that will be enough.
Let's see, we've got me, Duncan, and then
maybe some places there?
Yeah. So, I need someone to look at us.
Hi, my name is Marco. I will do presentations. Two big presentations. No, we don't have a clicker, but you can tell me.
So, Molly, the one thing that I'm suggesting to do, but maybe it's too disruptive, but I wanted to actually go and stand in front of the screen, because otherwise people are going to be, maybe they're looking at the screen. I don't know.
Sure.
So that's just a little bit more.
Remember there will be a transcript as well.
Okay.
So we'll be splitting through the transcript and this thing is like.
Yeah.
Why don't you go stand over there?
For now? Yeah. Okay. And then I'll come back for the discussion part, the panel part. Okay. Okay.
So, Olga, you're going to sit here?
How many panels?
Okay. You're up here? Doesn't matter.
Yes, that's the one.
So I'm going to say Duncan to see. That's Duncan.
And hopefully, and hopefully I'll just being able to just turn on a microphone will work.
Okay.
We'll try that.
Yeah, me too. It's okay. Duncan's going to come back. So, you want to sit right down?
I mean, I follow this guy.
Yeah, so you need to put it
Yeah. Do you need to sit here? No, I can sit here, but I'm just going to take this.
So you can see the chat. I think so, yes. It's very short.
It's just for all together. It should be all together.
That's one.
Just one.
By the way.
Okay. He's going to be down. So good afternoon and welcome everyone to this OECD Forum on the Going Digital Project, Making the Transformation Work for Growth and Well-Being. We really appreciate you all coming out today. I'd also like to warmly thank the panelists that have come here today. We have Carolyn Wien, the Director of Technology from Microsoft. We have Johannes Ruhl, who's a counselor at the Swiss delegation to the OECD. We have Olga Cavalli, who's currently a teacher at the University of Buenos Aires, but who also has extensive experience with internet issues in Latin America. We have Suso Baliato, who's now at Harvard. He specializes in privacy and data protection, cybersecurity, and AI. At the back of the room, we have my colleague Duncan Cass-Beggs, who may want to, oh, there he is, he's come back. He's head of the Strategic Foresight Unit, and I'm Molly Lesher. I'm also from the OECD, and I'm coordinating the project. So as you all know, digital transformation has risen to the top of the policy agenda, not just in national governments, but also on the international level. We see this in the G7. We see it in the G20 context, among others. So now we're going to move this to the next slide. And this is really why OECD members asked us to undertake a large cross-cutting project on digital transformation. This project